I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 90, The Comparison Trap. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. I hope that you are doing well. I am recording this episode at the end of an incredibly intense few days at my house. A few days ago, my daughter was supposed to come home from serving an 18-month mission for our church. She's been there in Arizona for a year and a half, and we've all been anxiously waiting to see her and talk to her and hug her. And her flight got canceled, and then it got delayed again. And so she came home a whole 24 hours later than planned. I had a bunch of company come for that. And then in that whole time, I had two of my children have birthdays. And so I've been doing birthdays and taking care of this daughter that we haven't seen for a year and a half. And she just left today to go on her next adventure. So she was literally home for like less than 3 days, and she's gone again. She's going to go be a camp counselor all summer long out in the woods for youth. Anyway, and I am heading out of town tomorrow. So now it is time to record another podcast episode for you. Going to be talking to you today about comparison, the trap of comparison. So let's talk about comparing. I hear from some of you that it's really difficult for you not to go there in your mind, that it's hard for you not to think about what your husband might think about the other woman, about women he's seeing in porn or other things like that. It's hard not to go, what does he see in them that he doesn't see in me? What's better about them than me? What characteristics and traits does he like more than he likes me? Those kinds of questions. Today, we're going to dive into this a little bit. And my goal in this episode is for you to leave with a couple ideas of things that you can do when your mind starts wandering to this space. Okay. So first of all, education is powerful, right? Knowledge is power. So let's talk about what comparison is. So Brene Brown recently published an amazing book. It's called Atlas of the Heart. And if I can sum it up, it's like a dictionary for emotions. It is so cool. It goes through so many different emotions and talks about them at length and when they show up and kind of what to do about it. And it's really, really cool. But she talks about comparison. And comparison is not actually, it's not a feeling, but it's something that we do that leads us to feel certain things. There are some feelings that we can feel that are pretty positive, and there's some that leave us feeling pretty negative. She shares in there how she's a swimmer, and that it's where she feels the most relaxed is just her in the pool. She can't hear anything else. It's her in the pool in that lane. It's a meditative type thing. It works her body. And she said that the only time that it really does not work well for her is when she's comparing her laps to the person in the pool right next to her. And when she does that, it slows her down and it takes her out of the meditative state. It makes her go, why can't I be faster than that? How come they're doing the laps quicker? Those kinds of things. And so she said that she printed up a picture of a pool and like with a lane and put it up in her office to remind her to stay in her own lane. And another thing she does is if there's somebody swimming in the lane next to her, before she jumps in, she silently says to herself a wish for that person that they may have a good lap, that they may do well. And that helps her to feel the way she wants to feel. Okay. So let's learn some things about comparison. First of all, I thought this was so interesting. I'm sure all of you have heard the expression, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, right? I learned, though, A few things. One, I learned that comparing is something that we do without even thinking. Like it is a natural thing that we all do. Every single one of us compare. And it's a way that we socially kind of check out what's around us. It's something that we have gotten good at, seeing what's going on, sizing people up, seeing if we're in danger, if we're not in danger, that kind of thing. But the problem is that studies have shown that the more we compare, the more we generally get depressed and down. And this even happens when we are comparing and putting ourselves in a one-up type position, like when we're thinking we're better at something than someone else. In the end, this can leave us feeling bad too, partly because we end up comparing the other way of times where we feel less than and end up feeling bad. So it really is the action of comparing that in general leads to a negative outcome for us, okay? Now, another thing that I learned is that scientifically, that phrase, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, is actually accurate. It's not funny. When you look at grass grown on the other side of the fence, the way that the pigment is in the grass, the way that it looks, actually, it looks greener to the eye than the grass right under your feet, even though it's an illusion. Their grass is not greener. It just looks greener. And I thought, how funny, because don't we do this? Don't we always look and see their house is cleaner, their yard looks nicer, she's prettier, she's smarter, right? And in reality, sometimes it really truly looks that way to us because we're comparing in likes. Let me explain what I mean. If we compared ourselves to other people who lived in a whole different culture with all different values, like completely different, we wouldn't be really comparing ourselves. Like it wouldn't be apples and apples, right? It would be apples and oranges. But what we do is we find ways to compare ourselves to people that is more, they are more alike than different. And this is where we get ourselves in trouble. When we start comparing people that live in our neighborhood, people that live down the street, people that we carpool with, people that we do sports with, that our kids do sports with, that we see at church, when we have things that are in common, that's when we get ourselves in trouble because we can see that we look and seem alike. So why are they so much X, Y, and Z, fill in the blank better than us, whatever? That's when we start to get ourselves in trouble. In the book, Atlas of the Heart, Brene Brown defines comparison as comparison is the crush of conformity from one side and competition from the other. It's trying to simultaneously fit in and stand out. Comparison says, be like everyone else, but better. Ouch. Gosh, no wonder we feel so much anxiety all the time. No wonder we feel so much pressure because it is our natural state to compare and we want to fit in, but we want to be just a little bit better than everyone else. That's such a huge amount of pressure to put on ourselves, right? A therapist who studied comparison in depth says this about it. From this perspective, when we are presented with another person who is obviously better or worse off, we have no choice but to make a social comparison. It can be hard to hear an extremely intelligent person on the radio, or see an extremely handsome one in the grocery store, or participate on a panel with an expert without engaging in social comparison, no matter how much we would like not to. Even if we do not choose whether or not to make a comparison, we can choose whether or not to let that comparison affect our mood or self-perceptions. Okay? So we all are prey to it. It is very, very natural. Now I want to dive in a little bit into the emotions that come from comparison. What are the things that we generally tend to do and feel when we start to compare? One thing that we do is we feel admiration and reverence. That's one thing that we do. On the other hand, we often feel envy and jealousy. So It's interesting because I'm thinking specifically of a friend of mine that I have known for years who was a truly incredible artist. Like she's won worldwide awards. Like she truly is incredible. She's so, so talented. And I follow her on Instagram. I'm just going to give a shout out. Her name is Liz Harris. Go find her. I follow her on Instagram and she shows her art and she shows like the progress of an art piece. And I just think she's so good. She's so good. But the reason why it's not like an uncomfortable thing for me to look at her art is because I know that that is not my talent. I know that I am not talented at art. And so I don't even think about it. I don't think, oh my gosh, I wish my art were as good as hers because I am not an artist. That is not my talent. And so I can feel admiration for my friend Liz Harris and go, that is incredible. She is incredible. A few years back, I commissioned her to do a charcoal drawing of my grandson, and it's so beautiful and perfect. And every time I see it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. But it truly is from a space of admiration, not envy. Where does envy creep in for me? Sometimes envy creeps in when I look at people that are more like me, other coaches who seem to be so much more successful than me. Sometimes I can envy them when I'm comparing my business with theirs. Now, several episodes I talked about the difference between envy and jealousy. Envy is where we see something that we wish we had. And I know for me, it comes much more frequently when I'm looking at more alike things, like people that are more like me. Like I don't envy really amazing artists because it's not even in my brain at all to be a good artist. It is in my brain, though, to be the best coach that I can be, to have a really successful, organized business. And so that's where sometimes envy can creep in for me. Now, how about jealousy? Jealousy is different than envy. Envy is when we see something outside of us that we wish that we had. Jealousy is where we have something and we're afraid of losing it. Okay. Now, what does all of this have to do with infidelity? Everything. I'm sure as you're listening, you can think in your mind how this relates to infidelity. When we have been betrayed, it is very, very easy to compare. It is very, very easy to wonder why we didn't cut it, why this other person was more whatever, right? We might feel envious of this other person, thinking if I were more this or that, then he maybe wouldn't have done these things. This is where I really want to challenge your thinking. In preparing for this episode, I read a lot of different things about comparison in regards to infidelity. And one of the fascinating things that I read is that people who have had affairs often say that it had nothing to do with the actual person that they had an affair with and everything to do with their state of mind when they wandered. Most people who have affairs or some kind of betrayal are in some kind of state of insecurity. They're either insecure or wanting a lot of validation or feeling bad about themselves in some way. And oftentimes it's the easiest person, the closest person, the lowest hanging fruit that is giving attention. And it's so easy to take. It's so easy to grab. And it has nothing to do with this being like this fine prize that they just are so proud of. That is just not the case. It's easy attention, easy to fall prey to it. Okay. So when you are comparing yourself with whoever the affair partner is, whether it be an actual person or whether it be pornography or some other thing that feels like a betrayal to you, I want to challenge you in your comparing yourself to them. What if you're just plain wrong? What if there actually is no comparison? Because in reality, there is no comparison. Like you are you, and you have all the amazing things about you that not a single person on this planet can replace. Not a single person. You have amazing traits that are yours and yours alone. Comparison is a thief of your own joy. Comparison is a thief of peace. It takes us out of our peace to compare. Now, like I said before, comparison is something that just happens to us. It's very, very easy to grab to. It's a kind of a part of being human, is like sizing up the things around us, the people around us, and seeing how we fit. It makes sense that it would be kind of a built-in structure in our brain to kind of help us feel safe in certain situations. But in general, it causes a lot of problems. Okay, so what to do if it's just something that happens to us? What do we do with it? I'll tell you, okay? This is what Brene Brown says. The good news is that we get to choose how we're going to let it affect us. If we don't want this constant automatic ranking to negatively shape our lives, our relationships, and our future, we need to stay aware enough to know when it's happening and what emotions it's driving. Okay, so one way that I have done this is when my brain starts to wander to envy, when I feel envy or jealousy, I remind myself that I am amazing and so is she. I am amazing and so is she. Okay. I'm not putting this other person down, but I'm also not putting myself down. That little statement right there has helped me so much because it redirects my brain to going, okay, if that is true, then what am I amazing at? And then I start getting to work with my list of what I'm amazing at, and it feels so much better. You can watch your brain start going to comparison and be the boss of it. Notice when you're doing it. Notice how you feel. Do you feel jealousy creep in? Do you feel envy creep in? Or do you feel admiration? Do you feel reverence? Why? What's different? Why do you feel admiration sometimes and envy another? Why is that? Figure it out. Okay. Look at the example that I gave of my friend. I feel admiration because I'm not comparing my artistic ability with hers. That would be ridiculous. Because you know what's true? I don't have any artistic ability. I can draw a mean stick figure. That's about it. Okay. That is not my talent. And so I don't even find a need to compare myself. I can just admire her work. I can just enjoy it. That's how I feel like watching the Olympics. Like, so much admiration. I don't sit there feeling jealous or envious, wishing that I could be like them. I just think it's amazing. Like, look how hard they work to get there. Look how talented they are. Look how beautiful that is. Okay. Notice when you start to feel envy and jealousy. Why? What is the comparison? What are you thinking? Find it. What are you comparing yourself to? What is it? Okay. I'm going to tell you a silly story. Okay. So I think I've mentioned before that when I first got married to my now husband, it was hard for me not to compare. Her pictures were all over, and my new kids wanted to talk about her. And he mentioned her sometimes, and lots of people in the community talked about her. And it was hard not to compare sometimes. And I struggled with it. One of the things about her is that she had incredible hair. Like she had really long, thick hair. I do not. I do not have incredible long, thick hair. My hair is more fine. I have quite a bit of it, but it's fine. So it doesn't look thick, and I can't grow it very long without it looking kind of straggly. Well, I used to be kind of jealous of it. Just this day, I told my mom something kind of funny. I told her that when I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now almost 6 months old, I made a comment to my husband about how I just wish that she could throw in a little bit of her hair genes from heaven, his first wife who passed away. Knowing, of course, there's no genetic connection to her whatsoever, but I said, I just wish we could borrow some of her hair genes. Well, guess what? My baby has the most incredible hair. She has amazing hair. She's almost 6 months old, and she has such long hair. Like I can put it up in little pigtails. I can put it in a little pony in the back. Like crazy hair. And none of either of our other kids had hair like that. Neither of them. None of them. None of our 11 other children had hair like that as babies. And so it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit about that comment. Could she throw in some hair genes? And I can only say that because I don't need to compare anymore. And when I notice my brain going there, I shut it down. And you know what else? Sometimes I just let it be. Like, yeah, she was super amazing at that. She was amazing at that. Like, I know that she was really good at sewing and quilting and things like that. That is, again, not my talent. And I can just admire it and go, that's so cool that she was really good at that and enjoyed it. And I'm amazing at these other things. There's other things that I'm amazing at, and I can let her be amazing and I can be amazing too. When it comes to infidelity, I want to just caution you that when your brain starts to go to comparing, I promise you, it will not take you anywhere good. There may be comparisons that you find that are accurate. Maybe you learn about this person that she excels at some certain thing that you don't. It doesn't matter. There are things that you excel at that she doesn't. Okay? It doesn't matter. But even more importantly than this, spending time in this space will never be useful. The end, period. When you notice your brain start wandering to comparing, this is where you be the grown-up of your brain. This is where you rein it in. This is where you notice it and you talk to yourself and parent yourself and say, you know what, that may be true. Maybe she was better at this and this and this, but is this useful? And you know, a lot of the times, I would venture to say most of the time that your brain starts making comparisons, you're probably wrong. Just like the grass is always greener, it's an illusion. It's not actually greener. It's just an illusion. Okay? Be on to yourself. All right, my friends, that's what I've got for you today. I think about all of you all the time. If you have things that you'd like me to cover, if there's topics that you want to know more about, shoot me an email, Andrea@AndreaGiles.com. I love hearing from you, and I love all of you and wish you all the best. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.